Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, Peter. And that's being reflected in these days across America, across the political divides, and from countless different kinds of communities who are all pausing to acknowledge the extraordinary life that was that of General Colin Powell. I mean, he really was a great American. I mean, look at his story. Born to Jamaican immigrant parents, grew up in the Bronx. He joined the military, where he said his race wasn't a problem for him. He said it's a problem for others, and let them deal with that. He became National Security Advisor to President Ronald Reagan. He was made the youngest and the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff by the first President Bush. He led the Western Alliance in the Persian Gulf War in 1991. The Republican Party desperately wanted him to run for president in the 90s against Bill Clinton, but he refused. And then when George W. Bush became president, he asked the general to become the Secretary of State. Now, it was during the Bush administration that we had the onset of the Iraq War. Now, General Powell was one of the voices in the White House who kept urging caution, yet he was still the one who was trotted out before the United Nations Security Council, as everybody remembers, on the eve of the war, and essentially sold the faulty intelligence to the world about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. General Powell always said that was a painful blot on his legacy. So look, everyone is expressing condolence for this, as I said, great American. President Biden says he was a great warrior and diplomat. George W. Bush said he was a favourite of presidents. And the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, says it's hard to imagine a more quintessential American story. Yet President Trump released a statement that said, "Wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, treated so beautifully by fake news media. Hope that happens to me someday." So a bit of a contrast there as everyone reflects upon an extraordinary life.
Yeah, Trump's got form around that too when it came to not just Powell, but he was quite critical of John McCain too. Hey, just going back a little bit there when you talked about how Colin Powell could have run in '96 against Bill Clinton. What was the reason for him pulling out there? I mean, because Clinton was starting to pull back a little bit at about that stage, wasn't he, when it came to opinion polls?
Yeah, it was. Bill Clinton was under pressure. The Republicans didn't really have a clear figure to turn to. And many in the party believed that Colin Powell could be the one. Now, he gave it heavy consideration. He later called it the most difficult decision of his life not to run for president, but he still called it the right decision. For a start, he didn't have that burning desire to do it.
Right.
And he wasn't sure that, if you run for president, you should be the only one the country needs. He wasn't sure if he was that man. And there's some suggestion that he was legitimately concerned that at that time in America, a black man running for president would have been so unpopular, it could have created disruption. And there may have even been an attempt on his life. And he didn't want that for his family. Basically, he didn't think he was the right man for that moment. And he found ample other ways to serve this country.
Yeah.